something about Michio Kaku's expression didn't sit right. This wasn't the confident, endlessly curious theoretical physicist the world had grown used to seeing on television, smiling as he unraveled the mysteries of the cosmos with effortless charm. This time, there was hesitation. His voice cracked. His eyes lingered far too long on a single image projected behind him. And when he finally spoke, the room of scientists, journalists, and space historians fell into a silence so complete it seemed as though the air itself had frozen. The presentation was supposed to be routine, an update on new data from lunar observation satellites. But what unfolded on that stage was not just science. It was confession. It was revelation. Something hidden beneath the moon's surface had just rewritten everything humanity thought it knew about its closest celestial neighbor. And by the time Kaku stepped away from the podium, even the most skeptical minds in the room could not deny that our story with the moon was never what we believed. The first revelation shattered decades of consensus. Utilizing newly deployed quantum deep imaging satellites, researchers had scanned the moon's subsurface with a clarity no human technology had ever achieved. What they found was not solid rock. It was hollow space, immense chambers, some spanning hundreds of kilometers, arranged in geometric patterns no natural process could explain. These weren't ancient lava tubes or chance air pockets. They had symmetry. They had alignment. They had purpose. Thermal readings added to the unease. Within these voids, localized heat signatures pulsed like a heartbeat, temperatures too precise, too confined, to belong to geology. Whatever was inside the moon was not inert. It was active. Alive in some way, or at the very least, still functioning. And then came the maps. For years, scientists had dismissed strange gravitational anomalies as measurement errors, small quirks of instrumentation. But when plotted at high resolution, these anomalies revealed something extraordinary. A global lattice, a grid wrapping the entire lunar body, running pole to pole, connecting perfectly to the internal voids and metallic reflections buried beneath the crust. 3 independent agencies confirmed the same skeletal framework, each detail identical. This wasn't chaos. It was architecture. If this grid still functioned, if it still held power, then the moon might not merely be keeping itself in place. It could be stabilizing Earth, its orbit, its tilt, its tides, maybe even more. Michio Kaku did not have to say the words out loud. The implication was already there. The moon may not simply be Earth's companion. It may be its regulator. He shifted the presentation from data to mythology, and the weight in his voice deepened. Ancient cultures, the Sumerians, the Mayans, the Egyptians, spoke of a time before the moon. Their stories told of nights without its glow, of gods descending from it, of an arrival rather than an eternal presence. For centuries we dismissed these tales as poetic metaphor. But layered against the new data, they sounded like fragmented memory, warnings whispered across generations, preserved in symbols and myth. Even eclipses, once thought of as natural coincidence, took on new meaning. The moon's ability to perfectly blot out the sun, a phenomenon unique in the known universe, began to feel less like chance and more like design. The final sequences of the presentation were the most unsettling. Subsurface radar revealed reflective materials arranged in geometric formations, metals unknown to modern science, engineered alloys that bent radar and absorbed energy in ways no ore could. When modeled under stress, they behaved as shielding, as if designed to withstand time, impact, and decay. Kaku's words were careful, but the meaning was undeniable. These were the remnants of a machine, or worse, a machine still dormant, waiting. Moonquakes, once dismissed as mere seismic curiosities, now echoed with sinister implication. They weren't geological groans. They were resonances. The Apollo missions had proven it decades ago, when the moon rang like a bell after impact. Hollow. Tuned. Reinforced. Now, with modern AI simulations, the only explanations left were chilling. Either the moon was unlike any natural body in the solar system, or it wasn't natural at all. And then came the signals. Radio astronomers had long recorded strange emissions from the far side of the moon, bursts of low-frequency radiation that defied every geological model. At first, they were dismissed as interference, artifacts of solar wind, or echoes from Earth itself. But with new instruments, the pattern became undeniable. These weren't random bursts. They were structured, repeating, intentional. When filtered through advanced signal processing algorithms, some of these emissions revealed sequences of pulses, digital-like in their consistency. To the untrained ear, it was static. To machines, it was something eerily familiar, code. Not language in the human sense, but mathematics arranged with precision, a rhythm that suggested not only intelligence but function. They spiked when deep space probes moved behind the moon, as if responding to alignment, as though the moon itself were watching the watchers. Was this a beacon? A warning system? Or something far more unsettling, a surveillance array left behind long ago? Kaku didn't confirm. He didn't need to. The silence in the auditorium was confirmation enough. The weight of the implications pressed down like gravity. But what disturbed him most wasn't the data itself, it was what had been erased. Buried beneath bureaucracy and silence. Records from Apollo missions had inexplicably vanished, telemetry overridden, voice transmissions redacted. Dozens of reels gone. For decades, NASA explained the loss as clerical mismanagement, the casual discarding of history. But as Kaku pointed out, some of those missing tapes corresponded with key moments when astronauts orbited the far side of the moon. Whistleblowers, men who had carried secrets for half a century, had begun to speak. Some described strange lights flickering beneath the lunar horizon. Others recalled hearing mechanical hums, metallic echoes reverberating through the ground beneath their boots. A few admitted, with trembling voices, that communications were deliberately cut or jammed when certain questions were asked, when certain words slipped through. It wasn't silence born of technical failure. It was deliberate. And if the truth was buried, if it was actively hidden from the public, then perhaps what sleeps beneath the lunar surface was not simply alien, but dangerous. The dread was inescapable. When Michio Kaku finally stepped back from the podium, the silence was heavier than applause could ever be. It wasn't the silence of awe, of wonder at the majesty of the universe. It was the silence of realization, the kind that crawls under the skin and takes root in the subconscious. The moon, the gentle guardian of Earth's tides, the poet's muse, the eternal symbol of calm and serenity, had become something else entirely. It might not be a satellite. It might not be lifeless. It might not even be ours. From its impossible orbit to its hollow echoes, from ancient myths to that is why the erasure matters. That is why the silence from Apollo cannot be dismissed. Because if what lies inside the moon is still alive, still functional, then every missing tape, every redacted word, is not protecting us from fear. It is protecting the secret itself. The secret that the moon may not only be a machine, it may be a mind. And if it is a mind, then it is listening. The signals, the pulses, the low-frequency bursts, they may not be random emissions. They may be thought, process, intention. A dormant intelligence stirring in its long sleep. And every time we crash a module into its surface, every time we send new probes, every time we pierce deeper into its crust, we may not be studying it at all. We may be waking it. When Kaku's final slide disappeared, leaving only the image of the moon itself projected in stark white against the dark auditorium, there was no applause. Only silence. The kind of silence that follows when you realize the ground beneath your feet may not be what you thought. The moon is no longer just a companion in the sky. It is a question. A riddle. A threat. And now we are left with only one terrifying possibility. If we go too far, if we uncover too much, if we awaken what lies beneath that surface, what happens next? Will it guide us? Or will it end us? Because sometimes the truth isn't light years away in the stars. Sometimes it has been staring down at us all along, glowing softly above our heads, pretending to be the most familiar thing in the night sky. And maybe, just maybe, it has been waiting for us to notice.